Well, build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance.
Welcome to Long Bangers Week at Hibs, sponsored by Leeds Spirits. I'm Matty.
Hello, I'm Colin.
Evening, I'm John. Or good morning, whenever this goes out.
Yeah, depends when you listen to it.
Hello.
Aye,
That's
hello.
good. I'm sure we've been here before. You're right. It depends when they listen to it. So
Yeah.
I always say good morning on a Sunday when we do it. I can't help it. I think it doesn't even go out till the afternoon earliest.
I know.
so.
But some people listen to us abroad. Well, a lot of folk listen abroad. We're quite big in Hong Kong, apparently, and in Australia.
You missed the opportunity to go big in Japan there.
Big in Japan, aye. We I genuinely think what is about those territories, but they're like listeners. Canada is another one where we have an unusual spike of listeners. So hello to all our Canadian, Japanese, and
as opposed to a spike in unusual listeners.
Well, I just assume they're all unusual. I assume everybody is like us. Right. Week at Hibs has been a relatively quiet week in terms of news stories until just tonight. So we've recorded just after some news has broken. Signing news. John, you want to talk our listeners through what's just happened?
I am going to absolutely mangle this gentleman's name, but
Excellent.
Mizian Maulida has signed from Hertha Berlin on loan. He's in their second side, and it seems like he's a player that's maybe fallen out of favour at his club, and Hibs have snapped him up, and that makes me think of. It actually reminds me a little bit of Tavares in terms of kind of, let's say, like falling out of favour, and hopefully Nick Montgomery can do what he done when he was at the Mariners and get him firing again. What do you think about the signing and the limited information that you know, because it's only been announced in like the last 25 minutes or so?
Colin, I'll come to you first on that one.
I'd never heard of the boy, and I've only looked him up in the last half hour, so I've not got loads of knowledge. But it's promising based on the amount of money he's been sold for. I actually read, I think it was at Leon Academy he came through, and when they sold him for €10 million, there was £100 million release clause in his contract as well. So they always had massive hopes for him, and he's just obviously not lived up to that potential. Hence why he's getting loaned out to the Scottish Premier. But it says forward, and then Patrick's article says winger. So I don't know where we'll see him play. But
right back, seems, probably.
I know, sitting in midfield. But it's promising. I mean, based on those stats, the names of the clubs he's been at. I know it's Hertha B now, but I think it was their first team that signed him, and they put him out to the reserves or their B team or however they work over there. I looked up his goals record earlier on. It's actually, I don't know, I missed it. I don't know where I read it, and then I've just reread it. It looks like about 20 goals in 100 games ish, give or take. So that's 1 in 5.
It's a good ratio, I suppose.
For a winger, it is. For a striker, you'd maybe look for better than that. But it depends. Patrick's calling him a winger, so. But I guess if he's never really nailed down a place in any of those teams, so you're not going to be scoring every week because you're not playing every week, and you've got to be in and out of the team, and it's harder. So hopefully, if he could find his way into the team and get a wee run, then he can improve on that ratio.
Without, sorry, Matt, on you go.
No, you crack on, John.
No, I was going to say without writing the guy off before he started, but I think it's probably reasonable because I know that Hibs fans and ourselves included have often gotten overexcited at a player. So in my haste to try and do a little bit of research on the guy, I had a look on Twitter and I saw a German translation about how it was a Hibs fan was asking him, like, is he a good player? And this is what the Twitter translation came up with. It says that he may have 1 to 2 good approaches, but was extremely undisciplined, lazy and stubborn here. Maybe the change of league and country will do him good. You have to stay excited. So with that in mind, how do you think he's going to fare if he starts against Forfar on Saturday?
Hat trick.
And
you know, Wingers
also-
always get called lazy though, eh? Like there are very few wingers that, like in the history of wingers, that didn't get, like Ryan Giggs was one that didn't get called lazy, but even Ronaldo got it for a while, like especially at Man United. Folk would say he's lazy, doesn't defend, and all the rest of it, and he's one of the best players to have ever fucking played the game. I think it's, you want to see a winger extorting their effort in the right times in the right areas of the pitch for me. Like I always think wingers are your attacking players. That's when you want them to come alive. I didn't really personally want to see a winger defending out of corner flag. I want to see them sort of terrorising an opposition fullback.
I agree with that. However, with the way we're set up, that isn't possible, because we've not got enough bodies there. The position, if he's playing out wide and that winger in a 4-4-2 or whatever it is we play, then he's going to have to do a bit of that. So
that was going to, you've almost stolen my thunder there, Colin, with my next question, which was, where do you think he fits into Montgomery's system, assuming that he does start on Saturday? Is it just a like for like replacement for Boyle, or different?
I've not seen.
Well,
I've
it's
not read
subject
enough
to
see.
I think was the transfer subject to work permit or international
clearance. Right, this is what Montgomery said about it. He said, for us to have the chance to sign a player of this calibre in January is an opportunity we worked hard to make happen, and we're grateful to Hertha Berlin for agreeing to facilitate this loan. At 24, he's already moved to some big clubs, but has found himself not playing regularly. He's now hungry to get his career back on track. After numerous video calls, it was clear both parties really wanted to make this happen. Maizian can play centrally and wide, which is really important as we have been light in attacking options. I'm sure the supporters will be excited to see him in Hibs green and white for the rest of the season, and we will continue to search the market for additional signings. So, centrally and wide is where we would expect to see him fit in, going by that. So, similar to Yuan and Boyle at the moment, I suppose, but just an extra option.
Do you think, how much credit do you think McDermott should get for this signing? Because I know that there's maybe been there's been a few murmurings about what exactly does Brian McDermott do?
I suppose his remit is bringing players in, so you would have to think that he's largely responsible for it. So a large part of the credit for making it happen. And then I suppose in the fullness of time, it will be, does that credit turn to blame? That's such as the nature of these things, eh? But I would say if you've got a director of football, like we spoke on Sunday, Colin, or Monday when we were recording Extra Time, that went out yesterday, about what are the club doing? You know, are they, Joe, is there a strategy in place to be picking players out? And this one, going by what Montgomery said, is they've worked hard to make it happen. So it doesn't sound like this has just been an opportunistic one. Although Scott Burns tweeted on it yesterday or the day before. Obviously, I think got proven to be quite wrong, because he said it wasn't happening and he was too expensive.
Yeah.
And Hibs were moving on to other targets. So he's either been sold a bit of a dummy by Hibs, or because he suggested he offered around rather than, and this ties in with what we were talking about, Colin, about the difference between opportunistic signings, which, like, if we'd gone ahead with Adrian Tavares out in Dubai, that would have fallen under the opportunistic category, because he was out there at the same time as us. We weren't necessarily looking for him. This one, if you take Scott Burns' tweet as being accurate, which you can't really, because it's fucking wrong, so you have to assume probably all of it is wrong. This would be an opportunistic one, because Hertha Berlin were looking to get the player out and playing football, and Hibs have taken advantage of it. But I think the way that Montgomery's worded it suggests that Hibs have been a bit more proactive in that transfer than it landing in their lap. So I would be inclined to give the club credit for it, John, asking you to answer your question, and Montgomery in particular. No, Montgomery, McDermott.
I do hope he's a player that's not on the... His career does appear to be on the decline, right? I know he's 24, but it does appear he was a high hope youth prospect. He used to play loads of games. I think I'm looking at his stats here when he was at Lyon as a boy, 25 appearances, 13 goals, and then it's kind of drifted away, maybe with the money and the associated stuff that comes with being famous and loaded. And it's just kind of drifted away from him. He's played less and less games at each team he's been at, and he's scored less and less goals at each team he's been at. So I'm hoping this is a turning point for him to turn it round, rather than just being he's just prolonging how long he's actually got left in the game.
Who was the Scottish winger, the young lad that got sold for big bucks? He went abroad. I think he went to Germany and didn't really do much in.
Burke, was it Burke?
Ollie Burke.
Aye.
That's I wanted to say I wanted to say McBurney. I kind of was in McBurney, but Burke. There's probably some similarities there when you look and see the similar position, going for a big fee, not quite living up to it, going for another big fee on the back of it, and no living up to it. And I don't even know where he plays now.
It could be one of them too much too soon. You know, like got all the money, got 10 million. Imagine how great you must have felt. He must have felt £10 million fee, 100 million release clause. How much wages you'd have been on with that? Then he gets sold for another 4 million. You know what I mean? He must have thought he was fucking living the dream, and to an extent he is. But then
he is now.
He's living the dream maybe off the field, but on the field he's not done it. So he needs to do it. Because if he doesn't do it here, that's some fucked day.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, he's come to Hibs and he's got a bit of a point to prove, and he's trying to get his career back on track. How likely do you think it is that he's going to do that within the next 6 months?
It's up to him. I think it's one of these ones that, like, it's almost an impossible question because we've not seen him, John. Or you reckon you might have seen him playing against Scotland?
Possibly. By the way, if any of the listeners were there for was it an under-19 or an under-17 Scotland match, and I think it was at Almond Vale. Ryan Porteous played at the time. I'm positive I was there. I might have seen this guy play, but I cannot for the life of me remember who it was that was at this game with. I surely wasn't there on my Todd, because that's just not me.
Well, if you were there with John, let us know. Do phone in. There will be a helpline. You probably read it at the bottom of your screen. We'll put it in there later. Just phone in, give the details. So without having seen him, I don't think you can answer the question of how likely is it that he's going to turn around. We're completely blind on it. What I would say, though, is he fits the profile. Like, if you look at Montgomery's business when he was at Central Coast, he brought in players that had fallen off the radar. And, like, Cummins is a good example. Cummins, you would have said, was probably in the same career trajectory, that was on a downward spiral. He had failed to live up to the expectations at a couple of clubs after initially being promising. And then he has a great season under Montgomery and sort of revives his career. So
one of the part of my thinking behind the question I asked was how likely is it that he kind of resurrects his career in the 6 months? So go back to what Colin was saying, like, he seems to be on a bit of a downward trajectory, and we're looking for him to reverse it in the next 6 months. Like, we're not, and we've talked about it, we're not looking for players to come here and make up the numbers. And what I was thinking is an extension of that is, well, what's the next step both for Hibs and for the player? Because if he does well for us, you would presume, well, fuck, like, we might have a bargain on our hands. Mm-hmm. Or the alternative is that he gets himself and puts himself back in does well for himself, puts him back in the shop window and goes back to a Hertha, Lyon, Nice or whoever.
It's definitely possible. Like, it's a well-watched league. You know, for all we talk down Scottish football, is fairly high profile. We've seen it with other players in the past that have come in and done a short stint in Scotland and then moved on to a decent career somewhere else. So if he grasps the opportunity and he's a good player, there's no reason why this might not be the thing that kickstarts his career and kind of gets him back on track. I hope it does, obviously.
Yeah,
I'd love to know.
Yeah, same here. I don't want to be sounding. I know I've sounded negative. I'm just looking at the alternative. It's easy to get excited and hype the boy up, but actually, let's have a wee look at. Like, I've never seen him kick a ball in my life. Not even got to try and claim I saw him at Livingston and 5-10 years ago, whatever it was, right?
I hope I put the appropriate caveats in there.
You're right.
I'm not 100% sure. Like, I was definitely at a game.
I was there, but totally passed me by. Can't remember. But I'm just giving the other side of the coin. You look at it and you go, "Wait, doesn't it look like it? Like, he wouldn't be coming here if he was doing well. He's clearly not doing well. So whether he'll be a quick starter or not, like, coming in, his first game might be Rangers. If clearance doesn't come through, like, if he isn't great that night, we can't write him off either.
Correct.
You know what I mean? He's obviously on a down. He's not played very much. He's not scoring loads of goals. His confidence will not be high. coming in and no scoring against Rangers doesn't mean we should say he's shite. We should never have signed.
Aye. Okay, well, we'll watch that one with interest, and obviously we wish him all the best at the club, and excited to see him kind of get going. Colin, you want to pick up the next story about a returning player?
Aye, so we spoke about it plenty over the last few weeks, but that's Megwa officially been recalled yesterday. So he's back in the plans for Saturday. I just wonder what you think about that. I mean, obviously it's highly rated, but we touched on it, and I know you'll have listened, John, but on Monday when we recorded Extra Time, well, I think it was then, we spoke that we might be overloaded and right back, give it a month's time.
Is
it the right thing?
Just as I was reading that about Megwa being recalled earlier, I was having the same sort of thoughts. It was, well, Miller's out on international duty, so Whittaker, does that mean that Megwa starts on Saturday? But actually, Megwa's cup tied, so presumably Megwa starts at right back, and then you've got Chris Cadden that's coming back soon. Yeah. He was out in Dubai at the training camp, so you do wonder how that's going to change the face of Hibs down that right-hand side.
I think a lot of people are assuming Cadden will play in right midfield, despite, like, I don't know how often he's ever played in right midfield in his career, but it seems to be the sort of gathering a bit of momentum when I read Twitter and that's where he'll play. But I don't know, because I don't know if that's him out of position, and we kind of always advocate playing players in position.
Well, Cadden started his career further up the pitch. I think he moved back as his.
Was it because he was a wing back?
I don't know. I think he started as a winger for Motherwell. I have a vague recollection of that. It's an interesting one because you think Megwa would be playing regular. I think he was a nailed-on starter for Airdrie, so you would assume he would have played first-team football all the way through the end of the season. The person most likely to be impacted by Megwa coming back is Whittaker, because you've got Miller, who you would assume would stay the first choice right back. Although, based on all his performances, you wouldn't say he's nailed on for it.
I'm not assuming that. I wouldn't assume that. Well, I know what you're coming for.
And actually, you might be closer to it because Montgomery's kind of rotated them a wee bit, even when Miller's been available. Whittaker, if he comes out the first team for a bit, that's all right. He's only 16. Like, he's had a taste that even if he's no first team player at the age of 17, 18, 19, 20, his progression isn't going to stall because he's all right to come out for the rest of the season and come off the bench here and there, maybe get a game here and there. His career will continue to kind of develop. Meg was a bit older. He'll need to play more. So I think the starting right back position almost becomes a toss of the coin between Miller and Megwa, and it'll be based on merit, which is what you want. You want that competition for places as much as possible. But I don't know when Miller's back, because I think Australia qualified today, didn't they, for the next stage of their cup? Sure, Boyle got an assist in that game as well. So that
we should really know these details, eh?
Jackson Irvine scored the goal. Aye.
I don't care about Australia. Don't give a fuck. Don't care. They're just there at holidays, as far as I'm concerned. They're playing anybody we've even heard of in this tournament. It's just a nice holiday for them, eh? That's what it is.
See, when you say, like, are they playing anybody you've ever heard of? It's other countries calling.
I know. Is it other countries that are recognised football countries, though? Like, and it might be. I don't know. But I suspect it's not. Australia often, when I see Australia results coming in, unless they're playing them at London, at Wembley or one of the wee stadiums down in London, when they get guest teams in, it's usually teams you've never, like countries you've barely heard of. Like the country the new boy plays for.
They just beat Syria 1-0. You've heard of Syria?
Syria, I've heard of Syria. Not in football terms. Generally because of the war.
When you want your phone to set a timer or something like that.
When I'm on my AirPods trying to text that kid. Comoros. That's who the new boy plays for. Never heard of it until I read his wiki earlier. You know what I mean? It's that kind of, and I know that they're African rather than Asian, but I don't know. I think it's a total jolly. Like, I know Miller to some extent. He's Australian, so he's wanted to play for Australia. Boyle's just on holiday.
Boyle's just living the dream. Oh wait, what was it? What was it when he hurt his knee? What was his new position? Was it vibe chief or something?
Something like that.
Vibe manager.
Head of good times. Right, I'll go on to the third and final story that we've picked up on this week.
But did you think it's a good thing for Megwa to come back or not? Basically, that's yes or no.
Aye.
For us or for him?
For both. So I think him getting into first. Sorry, I navigated off his Zoom. I think if I'm still on the screen, right, you'll see me try to figure out what's happening. But I try to get the wee button to come back to bring Zoom back up to the front of my screen. Here we go.
Australia's got Uzbekistan in the next round. By
have they? Have you heard of them?
I've heard of that country, not in football terms.
Could you name a single player for Uzbekistan?
Nah. I'm just looking. Lebanon against Tajikistan at one of the other last 16 games.
Aye.
Qatar, China, to be fair.
Aye.
And Iran and the UAE. Heard of them. Hong Kong against Palestine. Heard of Palestine.
I'm not sure why.
It's just countries that are at war, man. Like,
and Australia. Yeah, it's international peacekeepers, isn't they? They kind of go and try to calm everybody down.
So, guys, sorry. Oh, were you just going to?
I was going to answer the question. I think it's
a big question.
Yeah, yes, I do. I think it'll benefit him training at a higher standard. I think he will get game time undoubtedly, and it gives him a wee incentive because he will have seen what's happened with Rory Whittaker, and that's as big an incentive you can get as a player to go and say, well, actually, if I do well here, I'm a first team player at Hibs. So
I agree with
it's a big tick in the box for me.
What about you, John? What do you think?
I was going to go with the Brovsky line of like recalling someone for loan. My desire would be to see Megwa play rather, because I take your point, Matty, about Megwa training with the first team, and you think training at a higher standard that's going to benefit him, but the game time fits in with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want him to come back to Hibs just to train with the first team to what would feel like an inevitability without game time to be loaned out again at the end of the season or the beginning of the next. So has to be game time for him.
I think it's important he plays. If he's on the bench, there's no point recalling him. If we're recalling him for 2 games or something, I think it's the wrong call. But if he plays regularly, then it's the right decision.
Aye. Okay, right. Harry McCurdy was the one that I was wanting to talk about. So we've kind of spoken a wee bit about McCurdy being back in. I say back and available because he featured against Motherwell, but I think Montgomery's been sort of at pains to say that we sort of rushed him back quicker than he wanted to because we needed him in that game. But there's a nice piece in the Observer about McCurdy's return and Montgomery almost sort of saying this is like a second chance for him, I suppose, like acknowledging that it's not really worked for him so far, and that he's full of energy, he's been training hard, they're managing him day to day, and he sees him being like an attacking option off the bench when teams are sitting in. And McCurdy's energy will be able to kind of come in, break teams down and help us get goals. And the reason I wanted to talk about it was you've almost got this right. He's like a new signing, right? Because he's not played for so long, and we've only really seen him in flashes under Johnson. I think it's fair to say those flashes weren't the brightest or flashiest of flashes. You know, they were it flattered to deceive a lot of the time. What I wanted to ask you is, should we be excited about the return, or is there a risk of pinning too much hope on somebody who's already shown that they've got some work to do to show it at this level? Which I think, John, I'll come at you first.
I'm going to try and draw a parallel between him and Maulida because I think they're both probably in similar situations in as much as that. So Maulida's career's kind of been on that downward trajectory, and McCurdy, since he's come to Hibs, like you say, like it's not really started. Or sorry, he's not really started. I don't actually remember him starting the game. I think most of his time at Hibs have been substitute appearances. And I think there's a feeling that people want him to do well. Like they want to see what he's capable of. Because like we saw the videos before he signed. Like, or you know, we saw the signing video and we've seen the celebration. We'd love to see it. But I think what we've seen on the pitch and with the disruption there's been between Hibs managers, like you wonder, well, where exactly does he play and how does he fit into a Montgomery system? Like, is he going to replace, say, Venti up front as what you would maybe consider your natural finisher? I'm not sure because we've not seen any goals from him. Are you going to see him out wide? Probably not, because he doesn't seem to be that type of player. And with regards to, like, I'd hope that his career at Hibs doesn't just like fizzle out and he drifts off and goes down south again. I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him get back to full fitness at Hibs and contribute
to fitness, because I wonder if he ever was at full fitness. That's kind of one thing I try and, now that we found out that he didn't know he had that issue. He might have been getting frustrated because he couldn't the oxygen or the blood not pumping around as well as I don't know what the actual condition was, but I assume that would have been holding him back last year. However, that new boy's just putting one down the pecking order anyway, isn't he?
Aye, come on, and just a bit more competition.
I was going to say, like, with regard, I've never looked into it, and I don't know if there's ever been like full details released about McCurdy's medical problem. I wouldn't call it an injury issue because it was something to do with
a heart issue,
just something to do with his heart. So, is it something that's just kind of like reached a peak during his time at Hibs, or is it something that's always been there throughout his career that's kind of like hampered him?
So the test part of the I think it's a requirement for all the Scottish clubs now. You have to do as part of your pre-season checks to do heart, like a full heart diagnosis. It's split after things like what happened with Ericsson, and in fact, it was Blake Bolton, wasn't it? Like a few years back.
Muamba. Yeah. Fabrice Muamba.
And that was like almost the catalyst for it.
And then there's the Luton guy this year as well.
Yeah. So they get checked regularly. I think that was they picked up Scott Allen's condition through those checks, and obviously they've picked up the one from McCurdy. So
is that something that we're doing in Scotland that they're not doing in England then?
So they do it in England, but I don't know if they do it all the way down the leagues.
Right.
So, like, I haven't looked into it, John, to see whether it's a requirement all the way through the professional game. So it could be something that's developed over time. You're totally speculating here. It's probably no appropriate to speculate about it, but that's how we caught it anyway. They discovered it through that process, and then obviously went away and got the treatment that he needed for it. But I think you're right, Colin. There could have been a bit of a debilitating impact on how he was performing before. I think, John, you made a good point about folk wanting to you want to see the celebration. I think naturally you want to see a player do well anyway. And you saw the reception he got at the Motherwell game when he came out to warm up. The crowd were magic with him when he got on the pitch, got standing ovation. Everybody was happy to see him back. Sometimes we things like that, I think, when a player feels wanted and they feel like they've almost got to pay something back, like there's a connection that starts to build with the crowd, that could be the moment that it starts to click for them. And so I hope it does for McCurdy. I don't think he was ever as bad as folk made out. So I think there's the last...
Nobody's ever as good as anybody makes out. Nobody's ever as bad as anybody makes out. You know what I mean? It's that.
It was the lack of goals didn't help, and then no nailing down a first team starting position.
It's the height he came in on as well. You know what I mean? So he started up here, didn't do it, and it just gradually got lower and lower. Just knocked him down further.
So I'd love to see him do well. It's similar to Tavares, isn't it? Like, he came into the team when everybody had written him off, and it's a nice story. It's a nice thing when you see somebody kind of coming back for the brink. And we'll maybe see it with my leader as well, that somebody who's been written off elsewhere comes and shines, and that's a good thing, surely. Right, Forfar on Saturday, Scottish Cup. This is our first tie in the competition this season. I saw the Evening News had a headline that the injured players, was something like 2 doubts and 10 out, I think was the headline. So I never read. I presume the 10 out are the ones that we know already.
I listed Forfar players in that. It was a nightmare in that to try and navigate.
I was just about to say that, Colin. I looked at it and I thought, this is just all the players that are out. It's not just Hibs players.
Oh, was it Forfar ones as well?
Was it 4 Forfar players at the start? And I'm going, am I in the right article?
No.
And it was like adverts. Fucking it was a fucking nightmare. So I gave up. I had Matt Boyle on that listed in it as well. And you're like, well, he's not technically injured. It's just a holiday. Just
a holiday. How do you think the game's going to go, Colin? What's your prediction for it? We've got about a minute left.
I think it'll be cancelled Saturday morning.
Right. Is this our first postponed prediction?
I'm just trying to go a bit left field with it. Nah, if the game goes ahead 3-1. Hibs.
Do you think the warm weather training will they'll be coming out into like sub-zero temperatures thinking?
Because they're probably in the hydrotherapy chambers when they're in Dubai as well. So it'll be like that. Be like 90 minutes in one of them.
John,
Do you mean hydrotherapy or cryotherapy for the temperatures when they come back? Because they're going to need to adjust, surely.
it'll probably both, because it'll be pissing with rain as well, no doubt, John. So pissing and rain and freezing cold, you get the best of both worlds.
There'll not be ice baths after the game. There'll be an hot bath. Kind of the opposite. Yeah.
I hope the game's not postponed, because the last game that I got on a bus to go to was the Ross County one. That got postponed, so I spent 20 quid to go to fucking Stirling or Perth Services or something, and turned round and went to Curry for the afternoon. So this time I will not be paying any money until the pitch inspection's taking place. But I think it'll probably be not necessarily a scrappy, but I'm thinking more along the lines of Arbroath Hibs a couple of years ago when Bashiri launched the ball into the Arbroath Sea. 2-0.
It's one of the games, right? We need to score early. Take the sting out of them, because they're going to come out. They'll be at their work in the morning talking about what they're going to do at Hibs and all that, sitting in the office and all that. Because that's what it'll be like. We've all worked with folk that played for that sort of level of football before. They'll be talking about what they're going to do, who they're going to do it to, score an early goal or two, and they go, "That's them done, fucked, game over."
I think it'll be a routine, comfortable Tunaham, an unremarkable game. I think it's not going to be on the TV by the looks as well. Hibs have put a statement out saying they've no any rights to it. I don't think for TV is a thing. It might be. So folk actually know what the game, are going to struggle to see it.
That's a niche channel on the Firestick, isn't it?
Aye, for TV.
You can get them though. They are kicking about some of the ones, like the big stuff.
There was a brilliant thing on Twitter the day. I can't remember who shared it, and apologies if you listen, and I can't give you the credit for it, but it was like an STV report way back when, with East Fife fans singing about Cowden Beath fans, kind of the Adams Family tune. And the best thing was like at the end of the report, the voices that the Cowden Beath fans are just struggling to come up with a rhyme with East Fife and wife. It was like, imagine where that song was going. Anyway, right. Thanks very much for tuning in. If you've watched this on YouTube because you're a YouTube member, then welcome aboard there, and thanks for signing up. If you're watching it because you're a subscriber, thanks very much for subscribing it. In general, we appreciate it. And if you're watching this next week because you're not a subscriber, you can get this a week earlier if you go and join our YouTube channel or sign up for a subscription. Right, thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.
They trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink water, no.